There was a moment, maybe two-thirds of the way through last week's Christmas pageant, when something particularly exciting or particularly funny was happening on stage, and one of the two narrators in the pulpit behind me began to lean forward in order to see better. I have a photograph of that moment. I'll share it with you later. And I thought to myself, oh, you're telling a pretty good story when the narrator is leaning forward in order to hear what is going on. And then I reflected more about that when I got home, and I thought, in addition to telling a pretty good story, you've got a pretty good narrator when they are so invested in the story that they are leaning forward in order to see and hear better. It's pretty easy in this life to hang back, to maintain an academic reserve at all times, or to engage in a cousin to that, which is to kind of roll your eyes at everyone and everything, to treat the entire world like it's ironic, to go around the whole time acting as though somebody's just made a joke, no matter what is going on. This is a behavior I know well from my own life, this hanging back, this eye rolling. It's pretty good armor against getting hurt. Because if you hang back, if you're always rolling your eyes, then if your passions are, if someone mocks them, if you have what Scripture calls a scoffer who comes and scoffs at your passions, if your passions are revealed to be, as the kids say, cringy, then you have an out. You can say, well, I was only kidding. You're always at this remove. Here's the problem. Keeping that academic reserve, keeping this reserve, this right to say that you're just joking, it comes at an enormous cost. And the cost is that you never get to genuinely delight in anything. You never get to genuinely delight in your passions. You never get to lean into the pageant in order to participate in it fully. You're always just a step away. When I was I was remembering this with somebody last week when I was a young person. One of the ways that I practiced this strategy of being at a remove was that I only dated young women whom I didn't like. And I shared that with somebody, and they had an excellent follow-up question, which was, "Were you doing that on purpose?" And I think, on reflection, I think actually the answer is no. I was not doing it on purpose. I think that asking out a young woman whom I genuinely fancied felt like too high of a diving board to get onto, and so I thought, well, I'll go on the lower diving board, and if if this doesn't work out, I haven't actually risked my heart in any way. I've kept my heart to myself. Here's the thing: it's true, I did keep my heart to myself, and I guess I didn't get my heart broken, but it was a disastrous strategy. I was kind of miserable, and these poor young women were unhappy and confused. Like, what is going on with this guy? In the 12-step tradition in Alcoholics Anonymous, they talk about, I forget how it works, but like making amends where you can do so without causing further harm. And I've thought, like, oh, should I like get Sharon Hark's address and like send her a note and say, I'm sorry. I was doing my best at age 19 and it wasn't that great. I'm sorry. This last week, I've shared with a lot of you that my mom died 8 days ago, and I've gotten lovely notes from many of you. Thank you for that. Lovely expressions of of empathy, of solidarity in grief. There's not many people in this room who are strangers to grief, and I had a lovely exchange with a parishioner who was talking about the enormous love that she had for her own mother. What like really great friends they became late in her mom's life, and like what a special thing that is to have a friendship with your parent when you're both adults, and have understand that relationship in a new way that is sometimes possible when you're grown up. And she talked about how profoundly she misses her mom, and says like, I have this grief to this day, and maybe my grief would be less if I hadn't loved her so much. And I'm sure that's true. I'm sure her grief would be less had she not loved her so much. But again, what a cost. If you've been to a funeral here at Grace, you may have heard me ask you a question. It's a quick survey that I learned from my old boss, Bill Ellis, and or thought experiment, if you like. And the thought experiment goes something like this. So here we are at the funeral. Here we are in the wake of whatever losses you may be bringing with you to Sunday morning, whoever you may be grieving. And Bill would say, so I have a genie in it's not a bottle. What is it? A lamp. A lamp is what I couldn't come up with it for a second there. It looks like so much like a teapot that I couldn't remember what the name was. I have a genie in a lamp, and the genie is going to come out and offer you not a wish, but something adjacent to a wish, a deal, which is I can take all of your grief away. You just have to agree to have never met the person who's died. Now, who here, by a show of hands, who would like that deal? And in all of the times Bill did that survey, and all of the times I have carried on doing that survey for him, nobody's ever put their hands up. Nobody wants that deal. We, as deep as our grief may be, we realize that our love was this enormous gift. Grief is the price of admission for that love, and who wouldn't want to pay it? Who would want to live a life at a reserve where you're constantly holding back, never leaning in? I know so I know just about enough about Buddhism to be dangerous. So I want to proceed with incredible caution here. But I was reading a book, and this Buddhist teacher was talking about one of the core ideas of Buddhism, which is detachment. And I'd sort of always thought of detachment as being at this academic reserve, being at this distance from life. And but this teacher said he had a definition of detachment that I loved, which was detachment is holding nothing back. Now, it was one sentence in a book, so there was no opportunity to ask a follow-up question. But insofar as I understand, what he meant is when we're stuck in this place of attachment, we're always keeping part of ourselves, part of our resources, part of our heart in reserve, and to always part of it that we're clutching on to, not risking. And when we let go of that, we enter into life in fullness. We enter in unreservedly. We are, as the kids say, all in. I love that idea. What if we entered into life and held nothing back? Holding nothing back that's the story of the incarnation, isn't it? This mystery that we're contemplating this Christmas. God becomes human. In a movie I watched in my childhood, I think it was Jason and the Argonauts. Is that a mid-'60s classic? Is this a crowd that knows this film? Okay, Kurt knows this movie. So state of the art stop motion. It looks a little hokey by contemporary standards, but it was an amazing achievement at this point. Like the Colossus of Rhodes at one point comes alive and runs amok, and there's these skeletons that chase people around. It was so good when I was 8. I remember it really vividly, and I think it's Jason and the Argonauts where we visit the gods in wherever the gods hang out. I know Valhalla is where the Norse gods hang out. Where's it? Olympia, of course, which I should have known because it's my favorite pizza place. But, anyway, so we visit the gods in Olympia, where sadly, there's no pizza. But they're gathered on this cloud, and there's like this pond or something that they can look into. It's a seeing pond, and they're able to look down and they observe human beings through its waters, and they, laugh at the things human beings are doing, or they judge the things that human beings, they place bets. They're like the VIPs in Squid Game, and they periodically intervene in what is going on, but they're always at this remove. And I think many of us conceptualize God or God being like that, right? It's the guy with the beard on the cloud, very much like Santa, but thinner. But it's otherwise the same principle. It's exactly the same job, right? Deciding who's naughty and nice, and either cold or present accordingly. And the incarnation says no. That is not at all what God is doing. God is all in. God is holding nothing back. God is becoming a baby, this most vulnerable of things. He trusts absolutely in Mary and Joseph and in their broader family to take care of him. He cannot function without them. God enters into life unreservedly. If the work of church is trying to be Christ-like, then maybe there's an invitation to us to imitate Jesus, to enter all into life, to be like that narrator, maybe not just leaning in, but actually coming eventually out of the pulpit and participating fully in the play. That's the invitation to you and me to become like Jesus, fully alive, to participate in the work of building up the kingdom. And who knows if we choose to hold nothing back, if we keep none of our hearts in reserve, who knows what light we might get shining in the darkness.